is that your sovereign fund is looking at. Can you share maybe the criteria of projects or ventures that you have before you go into a certain investment? Are there requirements for your sovereign fund? Like, what are the requirements? A size? Is there a minimum size? What are the priority areas? Can you share? Maybe somebody here would like to.
Thank you.
Yes.
I think if I can say this, preempt my CEO has to say here. But essentially, the investment philosophy that we've been adopting. So can you hear me?
Yes.
The investment philosophy that we've been adopting here is really on three fronts. The first one is to help the local entrepreneurs to grow their businesses. Now, one example is that when we invested in Negos Navigations back in 2010, we helped the local management and a much smaller shipping company to acquire a much bigger shipping and logistic company in this country. Now, by doing so, we came with the spirit of China-Philippines cooperation, which is to our best ability and the enhancement of value to our company, and working in conjunction with the local management, with our fellow shareholders, we wanted to achieve the improvement in the standard of the shipping and logistics service industry. Now, when Stephen talked about tourism, exactly this is the point, because through many years of our hard work or tenacity or determination, you could see now to go ships, now running a lot of scheduling among the inter-islands. Now, that in itself will provide a lot of economic growth and benefits to the country. So, in terms of criteria, this is the first, the first one. We want to help the local entrepreneurs to uplift the standard of the industry. Now, the second, I would say the second criteria is as, we don't really have a lot of restrictions on what we do. But in terms of, running as a quasi-sovereign fund with a view, to help Philippines as well as generating economic benefits, we always take the view that we should put in a capital where it's needed. I.e., if there's an investment gap, then we should go and pursue these opportunities. Now, at the moment, in this country, since Ambassador Chito was talking about infrastructure. Now, in this country, infrastructure spending only accounts for 3% of the total GDP. Now, that's very, very low. Compared with places like Malaysia take Indonesia for instance. Indonesia is around 6%, which is twice as big. In other words, in this country, the infrastructure spending should increase significantly over the past 5-6 years during the terms of President Duterte. Now, why we say this is important is A, there's investment gap in there, but then B is through infrastructure investment, it will further improve the GDP of this country. Although it's running at 7% at the moment, which is quite high in one's view, but be that as it may, in economics, 1% spending infrastructure will generate more than one coefficient, in terms of GDP growth. So this is the second element, putting in the investment where it is needed. Now, I guess the last one is for bigger picture is in this country now Philippines and China are warming up. The bilateral relationships getting better and better. Now, I think from our perspective is this: we would like to put in investment where it will increase further the China-Philippines interconnectivities. Now, what I mean by that is that, as Stephen was mentioning earlier, in terms of tourism, at the moment, only 500,000 tourists coming from China, compared with 5 million into Thailand. This is only 10%. So, if we were to, looking at the tourism industry, as I see, as earlier pointed, it will increase further the China-Philippines interconnectivity, bringing more tourists. Now, the second one, of course, is that there are some agricultural companies in this country. For whatever reason in the past, the export to China has been low. Now, when I talked about China being the second largest trading partner with the Philippines, it itself is a misconception because I think 75% of that export to China is electronics. Only the remaining 25 it comes into services. Whether that in my view is that they are insignificant. Now the agricultural companies, some of them I met before, had some in-depth discussions. They always want investment fund like us to take them to China to expand the downstream, the consumer market, the 1.3 billion, I'll call it, hungry people in China. So that's the second interconnectivities. Now the third interconnectivities that I can think about is investing in infrastructure. Of course, there will be, as our experience in some other ASEAN countries have demonstrated that we could bring in the top construction, design, EPC, so on and so forth. They will be able to produce, or to give a very cost-effective and top quality type of construction services. I think this is something that will benefit the country. Now, of course, as my dear friend Governor Deng from Bank of China here, we will continue to work with him such that the Bank of China will always provide these sort of potentially financing. I.e., this is another connectivity from China, and which we very much look forward in the future to work with these China fellow China cooperation. Now, last but not least, if I may, is that China ASEAN Fund, has an open eyes. We are not here to preclude any possibility. Although I must confess that one or two sectors, maybe in real estate, that we don't look at that frequently. Maybe our expertise are not in these sectors. But we are very open, and we welcome anybody who come to us and discuss further any opportunities that one might have in this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very interesting.